Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a region that is so massive and so dynamic it practically has its own gravitational pull. From the towering Himalayas to these sprawling, high-energy coastal megacities, South Asia is a place of incredible history and absolutely massive global importance. But, as you'll see, it's also a region defined by some pretty intense contradictions. So today, we're going to unpack the power, the politics, and the immense potential of South Asia to really understand what drives this fascinating part of the world. Let's get right into it.
Take a second and just think about this number. 1/4. Literally 1 out of every 4 people on planet Earth lives in South Asia. We're talking about roughly 1.9 billion human beings spread across countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, and the Maldives. The stakes here are just absolutely massive. Whatever economic and political developments happen here, they definitely don't stay here. They ripple out and impact the entire global economy, international security, and honestly, the future of human development worldwide. And that really brings us to the central tension we'll be exploring today. Will South Asia's future ultimately be defined by its tremendous, explosive economic growth, or is it going to be held back by its deep, historical divides? It's kind of the core narrative of the entire region. On one hand, you have these booming tech hubs and a rapidly expanding middle class. But on the other, you have enduring poverty and some of the most intense political rivalries on the planet. It's this constant tug of war between profound potential and some really harsh realities. Okay, Section 1, the South Asian paradox. High growth meets deep deficits. Let's dive right into this first major theme. To really understand the paradox here, we have to look at the concept of human development. Now, this is a concept popularized by the Nobel Prize-winning economist Amartya Sen. And the core idea is that development isn't just about looking at a country's GDP, right? It's about fundamentally improving people's actual quality of life. It encompasses the whole shebang: education, health, income, social security, and political participation. In South Asia, you've got this rapidly expanding middle class that's consuming and investing more than ever before. Yet, at the exact same time, the region struggles immensely to provide these basic elements of human welfare to hundreds of millions of its citizens. Because the realities on the ground are stark. You have deeply entrenched poverty and unequal land distribution sitting right alongside severe educational and health deficits like high illiteracy and malnutrition. Rapid population growth is putting immense pressure on public services, while gender inequality continues to hold back women's political participation and wages. And crucially, there is massive youth unemployment. South Asia has one of the youngest populations in the world. This demographic dividend could be an incredible economic engine, but really only if these young people are educated and employed. If they aren't, well, this massive youth population transforms from a potential boom into a severe social and economic crisis. So, with so much economic potential and such a massive workforce, you have to ask, why is regional growth so incredibly uneven? Section 2, diverse political landscapes, how 1.9 billion people are governed. To answer why that growth is so uneven, we need to look at how political power is handled across the region, and this brilliantly illustrates the foundational differences. In a democracy, authority flows from the people through broad participation, free and fair elections, protected civil liberties, and, this is key, the peaceful transfer of power. Contrast that with non-democratic regimes. Here, participation is restricted, elections might be controlled or severely limited, civil liberties are curtailed, and the transfer of power, it often happens through force or military intervention. They fundamentally lack true democratic accountability. So, applying these concepts directly to the region, just look at the contrast. You have India, the world's largest stable democracy. A single general election there involves nearly 1 billion registered voters. It's a staggering logistical feat with a parliamentary system and regular elections since 1952. But then, right next door, you have Pakistan, where governance has been heavily shaped by military influence. We're talking repeated military coups and a strong military establishment that often weakens civilian governments. And then you have these fascinating cases like Nepal and Bhutan, which are currently in democratic transition. They've recently moved away from absolute monarchies to adopt constitutional governance and multi-party competition. It is literally an incredible diversity of political systems, all packed into one geographic area. Section 3, Shadows of the Past, Colonial Legacies and Rivalries. But to truly understand these current political struggles and the tensions between neighboring nations, we have to look back. The modern political landscape of South Asia was fundamentally shaped by the end of British colonial rule. The 1947 partition of British India created the independent states of India and Pakistan. And this exit strategy left behind a legacy of artificial boundaries, deep communal divisions, and really uneven economic development. It instantly cemented a profound, enduring rivalry fueled by competing national identities: India's secular democratic framework versus Pakistan's Islamic identity, and intense territorial disputes, most notably over the region of Kashmir. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because this geopolitical tension definitely didn't just stay on paper. It repeatedly spilled over into active conflict. Right after partition in 1947 and 1948, the First Indo-Pak War erupted over Kashmir. That was followed by the Second Indo-Pak War in 1965. Then, in 1971, regional dynamics shifted massively again with the Bangladesh Liberation War, which led to the creation of an entirely new nation. And in 1999, the Kargil conflict brought military confrontation right back to Kashmir. What is absolutely vital to understand here is that these historical conflicts sparked a severe security dilemma, leading to a massive arms race and, ultimately, resulting in both India and Pakistan developing nuclear weapons. All right, Section 4, the economic engine, liberalization and niche growth.
Okay, let's pivot away from the political roadblocks for a second. While politics and the military severely tested the region, by the 1980s and 90s, looming economic crises basically backed many of these nations into a corner. Facing massive fiscal deficits, slow industrial growth, and major foreign exchange crises, this immense pressure forced a wave of sweeping, transformative policies, and they were centered around three core components. First, liberalization. Governments significantly reduced their controls over business and industry. Second, privatization. Activities previously run by the public sector were opened up to private participation and ownership. And third, globalization. These economies began actively, deeply integrating with the wider world economy. A prime example of this was India's 1991 economic reforms, which loosened state control and dramatically accelerated their GDP growth and foreign investment.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how different nations leverage these reforms to carve out massive, specific global niches. Following its 1991 reforms, India rapidly transformed into a global IT and digital services hub. I mean, they are essentially powering tech support and software development worldwide today. Bangladesh took a different route, focusing heavily on export-oriented industrialization, and became an absolute powerhouse in the global garments and textiles industry. Actually, chances are very high you have something in your closet made there right now. Meanwhile, Bhutan took a completely different path. They famously guided their development through the philosophy of gross national happiness, meaning they prioritized environmental protection and cultural preservation right alongside their economic gains. But, okay, we need to ground this optimism a bit. While the IT booms and industrial expansions are very real and incredibly impressive, they haven't magically erased the region's structural flaws. Sustainable growth is consistently threatened. Deep-rooted poverty continually limits local purchasing power. Corruption weakens governance and actively discourages new investment. Severe infrastructure deficits, we're talking inadequate roads, congested ports, unreliable power supplies, create massive bottlenecks to progress. And increasingly, environmental problems like climate change, devastating floods, and droughts pose a literal existential threat to the region's long-term future. Section 5. The Path Forward, Redefining Development in South Asia. So, given these immense historical challenges and these brilliant economic successes, where does the region go from here? Let's explore what it will actually take to unite the region and secure its future. Regional integration is widely seen as a major key to unlocking South Asia's full potential. Organizations like the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, or SARC, were created specifically to promote cross-border trade, poverty reduction, and shared stability. But, as we've seen, the shadows of the past are incredibly long. While the framework for cooperation exists on paper, deep-seated political mistrust and ongoing security concerns, particularly between India and Pakistan, frequently limit actual meaningful cooperation. So the crucial point is this: looking at GDP growth alone just isn't enough anymore. Political scientists and economists widely agree that for South Asia to truly thrive, it absolutely must embrace inclusive development. This is an economic model demanding that growth actively includes social justice, equality, human rights, and environmental sustainability. It means ensuring that all that massive wealth generated by the booming tech sectors and garment factories actually flows down to improve the education, health, and basic rights of the average citizen. Which leaves us with this final, profound question to consider today. Can South Asia balance its explosive economic expansion with the urgent, undeniable need for social justice and equality? The answer to that question won't just determine the fate of 1.9 billion people. It's going to shape the economic and political landscape of the entire 21st century for all of us.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this really helped you grasp the immense complexities and the incredible potential of South Asia, and I highly encourage you to keep exploring the fascinating nuances of this dynamic region on your own. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.